Picture yourself traveling back to 1950s in a children's park and you watch children have this weird thing on their waist that they just shake. It is called a hula hoop and it was the craze of 1950s where millions of units were sold. However, the craze actually died pretty quickly and by the 1970s nobody even remembered what it was. In contrast, picture the fitness industry that got started in the 20th century and became more popular over time, and still 100 years later we still have gyms and it's just growing more popular. This is the basic contrast between a fad and a trend. The hula hoop was a fad that was popular for a few years but it died out quickly. Business of having a gym is actually a trend where it got more popular over time and saw compounding returns. But why did the hula hoop was just a small craze and gyms actually got popular over time? What made one of them a trend, the other one a fad? I believe it is because a trend usually solves a specific customer user problem. With the advancement of transportation and technology, we humans move less, and we've been moving less since the 20th century, which is why we need a place where we can move and lift stuff so we can still look good but keep our laziness. But hula hoops did not solve a particular problem that other toys couldn't. That's why they were just a fad. How does this connect to UI UX design? There are a lot of videos that are telling you the new UX design trends, new UI design trends, but I believe they are just new fads. So in this video, I will show you the 3 fads that I don't want you to spend time on learning and 3 UX trends that I believe it is worth your time to learn and master so that you can become a better designer this year. According to Nielsen Norman, Brutalism in UI Design refers to interfaces that are clean and adorned, where it is very hard to differentiate the background with the buttons and the text with the links. The reason I believe Brutalism is making a comeback is to just show a uniqueness in design. I believe most designers are getting bored where you just have to design new shadows for a button for the 100th time. The first time was really cool, but the 100th, the 1000th time is pretty boring. So instead we are going against the curve and we are designing something unique that is forgotten. However, because it is not solving a fundamental problem and it is creating new problems where it is very hard to distinguish between text and links and buttons, I believe it has more problems it's generating than actually helping our case, helping our usability. So overall, I believe it is just a fad, and over time it will just become a ghost design technique again. Those who know me know I love Apple products, but I'm on a vengeance call because they made Glassmorphism a popular UI design technique. After the Big Sur OS update, all of the other designers tried to copy this beautiful background blur that has gradients on it. Yet, if you have enough eyesight, you can really fall in love with the design, but it is not accessible. Over time, a lot less people will choose it because it is actually causing businesses to lose sales. If a customer cannot click on your button because they can see it's a button, you are losing sales, and over time, this technique will also just become a fad. Finally, Neumorphism is still going strong in the last few years. It is a product of flat design and skeuomorphism where between the background color and the buttons there is only usually slight shadow techniques to separate the two. While it does look super cool, just like Glassmorphism, it makes things very hard to read, and over time more designers copy this technique. The appeal of uniqueness will decrease while the cost for the business it is losing sales will increase and at least keep at the same level. It is a fad, I believe, and it will be a ghost technique like Glassmorphism. Now, those were the 3 UI UX design fads that I believe you should not focus your energy on. And now let's move to where you should focus your attention. What are the design trends that if you learn will give you compounding returns in your career? Nowadays, a lot of mobile and web applications offer dark mode and light mode at the same time for their users. But why? It does not make any sense. If you have a white background with black text, you have the most contrast, so you have the most readability. So why do we actually allow a dark mode? Is it just a fad like Glassmorphism? While readability is important, it is also important to have less of an eye strain for the users. With the white background and black text, a lot of users, if they are working on an app for a long time, will get their eyes strained and they will squint because the contrast is too much. So we want a level of contrast where it is readable enough but doesn't strain our eyes, and that is a dark mode It is a black or dark gray with light text that makes it readable still, but also doesn't cause any eye strain on our eyes, so we can work longer. So having a dark mode is literally solving a user's problem, having less eye strain compared to other three fads we talked about, which is why I believe it is here to stay. Well, how do I go on about learning dark mode, Ahmed? Find a design screen that actually is on light mode on Figma and copy it. Turn its major elements that have color into their luminescence mode. You can do this by going to the color picker and pick the luminescence option. This will teach you by brightness which elements are darker and which elements are lighter than each other. Here is the crucial part. When you design the dark mode of the screen, you want to keep the levels of the brightness and darkness you found out. Meaning, if the background is actually darker than its navigation, when you are designing things in dark mode, you keep that hierarchy. Even in dark mode, the background has to be darker than its navigation, so that the dark background still works for the user, because they can still differentiate the difference of brightness and darkness between the elements, and it is still consistent. Now, even if you master the dark mode, you have to learn more about the user's difficulties so you can ease their problems. One problem we have is a lot of users is actually having some sort of disability that prevents them from using web or mobile applications. A recent study by Forrester found out that 36% of companies surveyed were investing in accessibility, meaning if you want to get a job in UX design, accessibility is becoming more crucial to learn. The reason they are investing this money is because they realize a lot of their potential customers have some sort of various disabilities. For example, a recent study found out that 1 in 12 men is actually suffering from color blindness. So the companies want to make sure their potential customers, even with disabilities, can buy from them so that they can have more profit. Well, Ahmed, how do I get started with accessibility? First, install on Figma the accessibility plugins such as Able. This plugin will let you see the contrast difference between background and text color and will tell you the readability level. Next, you can read Apple's guidelines on button sizes and also their typography. After getting your feet wet like this, you can go to WCAG for actually reading all the accessibility rules. But if you don't want to read but prefer taking a course, I am going to take this Udemy course from this teacher in the near future, and I found she's actually pretty legit. Now, our final trend is cross-platform design. Now, when I say cross-platform design, do not confuse it with web design. Web design is for actually having, let's say, a website to be seen on different devices such as mobile, tablet, or desktop. But cross-platform design means that depending on different devices and different operating systems, phone's user interface looks different than an Apple phone's user interface, the designer has to design things differently. And because of new technologies like React Native or Flutter, companies are actually coding an application in one place and make it actually available in completely different devices, different operating systems. So it is a very good idea. As this becomes more popularized, you actually improve your design skills for cross-platform. To learn more about this year, I actually am reading the Android and iOS documentation when it comes to differences between these two operating systems. One of the differences I learned is that for Android phones, the button navigation in the physical hardware lets you go back a screen or go to the home screen, while in iOS you don't have that option of going back to a previous screen. So literally the designs, the UI designs you are going to do as a designer has to have the option to go back to the previous screen. If you don't have it, the user doesn't have an option where they can touch in the hardware of the mobile phone to go back. Now that we understand the three design fads that you should not spend time on, and the three design trends that if you spend time on in 2023, I believe you will get a compounding return in your design career, we might actually want to learn how to practice design so that we can learn these three trends the fastest way. How to practice design deliberately, and if you want to know, watch this video next.